Welcome to the Paradigm Shift episode 112. We have a very special guest on today. One of my personal favorites, if I'm being honest. The tenacious, beautiful, and brilliant Terri Cole. But first, Big Dave. Let's have some fun. Y'all know the drill. Let's drop in the chats a win from this week and also something that you're really excited about right now. Terri, I see you. We're going to bring you on in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Waiting for my co-pilot, Big Dave, the handsome hamster. And we're going to get this party started. Very simple stuff. Okay, 112 weeks. Everybody's out today. Yup, Jess in the house. Very good to see you as always.
Hello.
Dave?
Hey, buddy. What's
Hi,
going on?
handsome. Everything's great. Happy Saturday. Why is it
Because
so
it's
dark over there?
10:32 p.m. in Bali right now.
Nothing could stop us. 112 weeks
No
in a row.
big deal,
Bali's
man.
no big deal.
I saw that you had my boy Milet.
What was that you were cutting out?
Your idea was, hey, let's bring on all the guys. And I said, no, you're going to earn it when they're going to want to come on your show. You're not going to be a favor. And you reached that level, man. Congrats.
Oh, thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate that. You know who told me that?
I can imagine.
Who told
I
me
hope
that?
I did.
You did. And I love you. I'm so excited to see you. We're going to bring on Terri, who I'm really excited about. But let's get this party
I'm ready
off.
for you, man. What's
Ready
going on?
for me? Dave, how can you identify when your ego or your opponent is operating in your mind? This way you can keep it at bay or maybe take advantage of the opportunity to overcome them. How can you identify what is the
Ego as fear of the past or fear of the future. And so I know that first, the fear of the past usually shows itself as resentment or guilt, fear of the future, anxiety, or worry. And so for me, I look for those two types of emotions to indicate whether it's fear of the past or fear of the future. Then I take it a step further and see what ego-based consciousness that I'm prescribing to that fear. And so is it a need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, any of these different ego-based consciousness. And then instead of trying to use logic or reason, which is not part and parcel to emotion, I actually put into a different philosophy. I stop, I breathe, I get to that center, that baseline in which I gather each morning. And then I think about what I want, who I can help, who can help me, how to get it done so that I'm pursuing my potential in the correct trajectory, not wasting time with interfering, FEAR, with my potential.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the only thing that comes to mind after that response is how many beautiful Bali bologna sandwiches.
I thought you were going the Bali bagels. But yeah, we've had quite a few. Obviously, I'm looking really good at night. It's one of my better qualities: distance, drunkenness, and darkness, all assist in making me look really good.
You always look good. I'm going to bring on Terri. While I do, I wanted to ask you this because you do this better than anyone I know, and I believe it's a skill that anyone could develop. How can one improve, Dave, their ability to focus?
Yeah, so number one, I take it to a scientific level. If you want to improve your ability to focus, understand that number one, the speed of thought moves faster than the speed of light. And so I'm a big fan of refocusing with a center focal point. If I utilize the center focal point, if I'm, talking, for example, to you, but also doing my emails, what I'm doing is utilizing the speed of thought over the speed of light. The speed of light is the time it takes for the light to get from the sun to the earth, which is how we constructed our clocks, the 24 hours that we have in a day. So I'm maximizing the man-made construct of time against the speed of thought by having a central focal point and then going to an additional matter and back and forth between those two instead of other people. They go from one thing to another, and they can't gather enough data in their thoughts in order to reconcile the actual understanding of what you're saying compared to returning emails or texts while you're talking. So I think understanding the speed of thought and the speed of light is crucial to understanding central focal points and how to stay focused.
Beautifully said. And I am no longer the most beautiful human on this live. Welcome, Terri.
That's a given.
I am.
Terri,
I
are
came
you in Manhattan?
yesterday, and I've got a dinner tonight.
Unbelievable. Well, you're one of my favorite people. We just connected somewhat recently, and we hit it off right away. It's such a treat to have you on today. I imagine most of our audience and community is familiar. In case they're not, our biggest suggestion is to do a deep dive, check out all the awesome stuff Terri has going on, play a little catch up. What I think is most valuable today is we just dive right in. You ready for us, Terri? Terri, I see you talk about this often, and to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure what you mean, so I imagine it's going to be very valuable for the audience. And you talk about the burnout epidemic. What exactly is that, and how can we do our best to navigate it?
And what I've seen in my psychotherapy practice is it's basically not having the mental bandwidth capacity to do the things you want to do well, because you're leaking energy in other places in your life, especially women, where boundaries come in. Where a lot of times, if your boundaries are disordered, if you're saying yes when you want to say no, you're friggin' exhausted. All of the bandwidth that is expected, just running a home, right? And a lot of my clients are running a home and running a business, where the invisible labor, the toilet paper doesn't replace itself. You know what I'm saying? So I think that a lot of times we talk about burnout, but getting specific about what are the actions and the invisible labor that people are doing that creates burnout is the beginning of being able to shift it.
Ooh, Terry's got nuggets today, huh, Big Dave?
It's so difficult to not do too much, especially as moms, and coming from a family of a single mom who raised 6 kids and witnessed how that all transpired and what depletion and dissolution occurs with the emotional energy of enough is enough, and then we start to get out of the learning zone into the anxiety zone and constricting our capabilities. One of the other things I find interesting, Terri, that has been a paradigm shift, no pun intended, to Craig, over the years is, being able to identify that we all have the same amount of energy, meaning we're connected to the same source. It's what are we doing to interfere with it? And all of these little things, when we're not prioritizing the non-negotiables, especially as a mom, when we're not prioritizing the non-negotiables of our own health, number one, then our family, then the activity we get paid for, if we're not prioritizing correctly, then we end up having and utilizing non-essential, non-important, what I call urgent things, that then, like, it is urgent to change the toilet paper. But it also doesn't have to be an emotional drain to you, that you can actually, my three favorite words, the 3 words I wish I would have learned before I lost everything 15 years ago, was ask for help. And I think especially moms and women don't have the perception that it's radically humble to ask for help. They think it's actually radically humble to give until they can't give anymore. And we can't give more with less was always the lesson I tried to teach my mom, because she's so selfless.
So beautiful and so true, Dave, in respect to the hyper independence that I my therapy clients and I've experienced myself as younger, where there's some thought that I should do it all alone. And if I have to ask for help, then I'm doing it wrong, or something is wrong with me. And you're 100% right. If nobody's set up my own bucket and I'm giving from an empty bucket, trust me, I'm bitter. Like, what is the payment? Not just doing things like part of codependent with burnout, but I'm also pissed. I'm staying in this state of like low grade aggression where I'm just mad to take advantage without look at that script and go, are people taking advantage of me, or am I setting myself up as the savior for all the things? And why? Right? Collaboration is really important.
This is so good. And I just want to say, Terry, because I know you talked often about we have to stop abandoning ourselves for the sake of others. And that makes me think of what you just said. And there's a big difference between being tired and being depleted. Like I'm tired after a long day because I'm working my butt off. But when you're depleted, it's because you're out of alignment. Would you
100%.
agree with
And I
that?
think you can tell. Someone asked me yesterday, well, how do I know that I'm not, my bandwidth is depleted? And I'm like, how irritatable are you? How are you to become angry about things that are really not that important? Like when you're so annoyed, certainly personally and in my therapy clients, that's an indicator. Like life is not that serious. We don't need to be annoyed at everything, but it's like a low grade experience. And you don't really think that you're doing the best for your family, your company, anything, if you're constantly in a state of being irritated,
Yeah. Dave, what are
Yeah,
you
well, for
smiling at,
me,
you
it's one
giddy
of the
goose?
ego-based consciousnesses that totally interfered with my own success, which was a need to be offended and a need to be right. And if I could take back all the energy, emotion, time, value, and reheal the relationships that I destroyed because I had a need to be offended over nothing, illusions, perceptions. There's so many instances where we have a need to be offended over a false participation in a perception. And this occurs all the time, but we don't realize the damage, the depletion that's occurring when we have that need. I try now, I have two buckets. I look at, when I have that emotional reaction of the ego to be offended, I ask myself, is this about life or is this about life circumstances? And if it falls into the bucket of life circumstances, then I know it does not have the importance or credibility or the reality of a perception I want to participate in. If it impacts my life, then I may take some time to evaluate how I can resolve or heal the situation still without being offended. But I would say that if we could take back the need to be right and the need to be offended as egotistical mindsets, we could save ourselves a ton of time, money, relationships, and value.
so good.
This is
It's so
awesome.
true. I love that so much. The need to be offended. There's so true about it, but it's all you can flip that script, which is basically what you're saying, where we can change the lens that we see something with. And it's kind of pedestrian and a little lazy to be offended all the time, right? It's like get radical, right? And go, what the hell is going on with me? Why am I taking this shit so personally? Why am I acting like it's about me when how that person is being is really about them? It doesn't mean we can't have boundaries with people, but I love that, Dave. That's so accurate.
To be honest with you, I just want to. I recently had a breakthrough, and a lot of it has to do with having great conversations with both of you. Like when I get triggered by something, I used to be like, "It's that person," but now I'm like, "What is the flashlight really zoning in on right now?" I'm being triggered because something about me, and then we have an opportunity to kind of maybe correct it or
Yes.
transform it or
One of
heal it,
my
right?
pals and mutual pal, Dr. Shafali, talks about all of our triggers residing within us. So as much as we want to be like Bob from county is an idiot, it's about Bob. If you're triggerable, that shit is some lived experience that's about you, that you have that trigger, which of course hopefully is empowering to people, because if that trigger's within me, I can deconstruct, I can take a look, I can become less triggerable by understanding what the original injury is actually about, because it's not about accounting.
Yeah,
So true.
this is so good.
There's one saying,
Unbelievable
Terry
stuff.
and Craig, that applies to this and so many other things in my life. And I always say, you can't find it outside of you what you can't see inside of you. And so I think it's completely relative to the need to be offended. that when we're offended or any trigger, that once you look inside yourself, in the Sanskrit, years and years, thousands of years ago, when we look at the rules for being human, one of them is others are mirrors of ourselves. And I think that's the predecessor to understanding that we give meaning to everything we see, and we find that meaning within, and we project it outside of ourselves onto others. So it's a huge lesson that I practice. And I want to also reiterate that I practice these things myself. 17 years I've been practicing them, not perfection. And so many people want an instantaneous result or progress, but you're not going to get it. It's going to take years, but each incremental leap that you make will aggregate, compound, and accelerate in the trajectory of the progress that you do want, and you'll have a lot more energy and a lot more to give.
I have something I want to say about the in the chat said something like, sometimes people are really, really good at triggering us, let's say. So I want to just say that these things can exist simultaneously. We can take responsibility for what is activating us becoming radically curious. And Bob from accounting might actually be a dick, right? Like, we're not saying that, right? The other person might not be acting like a jerk, but your reaction to that is about what's inside of you. And those are the things that we can control. So again, we're not giving a pass to shit behavior from other people. We're just saying it doesn't help us if we just blame Bob from accounting, right? We need to take responsibility.
It seems like it's always a Bob.
That's right, it's a Bob. Craig, I got time for one more question, but you guys can continue on.
Yeah, I'm going to land the plane with this one. I know you guys are both traveling. We can't not talk about boundaries with Terri. She's the queen of it. One awesome thing that you say, Terri, amongst the many, is you are the bouncer of your VIP section of your amazing life. How can people take that and apply?
Well, part of it is
exactly
understand you have a right to not have in the world have access to your most tender heart, that you decide or how far others are from you. I think that in my therapy practice, I've seen over the many years that people feel bad. Like, if he wants to be my best friend and she thinks we're best friends, it's rude. Some people belong in the effing mezzanine of your life. That's a fact. Not everyone. Only people who are feeding you and who are emotionally trustworthy, according to me, should be in the VIP section of your life. But you got to get that you're the bouncer, and you make the list, and you put the rope. And if you don't, you have every just pop it down a VIP seat, and I don't want that.
Did you say the mezzanine? That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll start selling on StubHub to be VIP friends of you too. For me, it's a great chain of feeding. So, I utilize, that criteria of who I surround myself with. That those that feed me, I'll feed, and those that bleed me, luckily today it's so easy to allow people to fall away. But if necessary, I'll even fire people from my life. So I think that's a really important boundary to set, and I use that chain of feeding in order to figure out a criteria of who to fire or fall away.
Yeah, so good. So good. Love you both so much. Thank you guys. I know you guys are both traveling. Dave, enjoy Bali. Get some rest. Terri, enjoy the Big Apple. I'm going to text you both in a little bit. And I'm just so thankful for this conversation. I know I'm better for you, and I love you guys.
Nice to meet you, Terri. Thank you so much.
And
Bye, guys. Awesome conversation, guys. Thank you as always to my partner in crime, Big Dave. We had Terri on the show. We haven't dropped it yet, so this is kind of a special treat. But I would encourage all our community and audience to check out Terri Cole and all the awesome stuff she has going on. She talks about many amazing things, but one specifically is boundaries, and she does it cooler and more digestible than anyone I've seen. And even her analogy just there about some people in your life deserve to be in the mezzanine, it's just so beautiful. She's awesome. Thank you both so much. Big Dave, as always. Love you guys. Let's have an unbelievable weekend. The Reinvention Formula. Our first book coming out August 15th is available for pre-order right now. It's supposed to be a secret. We haven't announced it yet, but there it is. We love you guys so much. We'll be back next week for the Paradigm Shift, episode 113. And go check out everything Terri and Big Dave have going on immediately.